Good morning, everyone. For the record, I'm Matthew Cherry, TABC Senior Counsel. We do have 3 items on today's agenda. All of these rules were proposed at last month's commission meeting, and then they were also published in the October 11th edition of the Texas Register. Staff does intend to recommend these rules for adoption at next month's commission meeting. And today is your opportunity to provide verbal feedback and comments on the proposals. However, this is not your only opportunity to provide comments on these proposed rules. You may submit written comments to the agency through November 10th. The first item up that we have on the agenda is amendments to Rule 41.12 related to compliance reporting. So these proposed amendments increase the amount of time that licensees and permittees are allotted to complete their compliance reports, as well as it does provide some additional relief to businesses who fail to submit a report timely. At this point, I will open the floor for any comments on proposed amendments to Rule 41.12. All right, I'm not seeing anything. We're going to move on to the next agenda item. And if you still want to make comments later on at the end of the meeting on item 1, there's no problem with that. So the next agenda item is amendments to Chapter 45, specifically rules 45.2, 45.28, and 45.29. First up is the proposed amendment to Rule 45.2 relating to definitions. So this is the one that just amends the definition of distilled spirits in the rules. That way that definition aligns with the definition of distilled spirits in section 104 subsection 3 of the Alcoholic Beverage Code. And the next are new rules 45.28 relating to the standards of fill for distilled spirits and rule 45.29 relating to standards of fill for wine. All of these do is adopt the container sizes and the standards of fill for both of those categories of alcoholic beverages that are authorized in the Alcoholic Beverage Code, as well as authorized under the federal regulations that are issued by the TTB. These changes ensure that the definition of distilled spirits in the agency's rules align with the definition of the Alcoholic Beverage Code, and also that all container sizes that are eligible for a certificate of label approval issued by TTB that are not otherwise prohibited in the Alcoholic Beverage Code are clearly legal in the state of Texas. And that covers the proposed amendments to Rule 45.2 and the proposed new rules 45.28 and .29. So I'll open the floor for any comments.
Matthew Marcus Schwartz here. My understanding is that the standards of fill related amendments are really just meant to clarify effectively that if you're able to get a TTB COLA, you can get a TABC label approval, assuming there's no state private label type issues occurring and that sort of thing. Is that an accurate statement?
Essentially, yes, that'd be correct. The main goal here is to make sure that anything that is clearly authorized under the Alcoholic Beverage Code that would kind of have a gap in the law, because the code, for some container sizes, it just says can't be, there's prohibitions on minimums, but nothing on the maximums. Right. And then those do have maximums under TTB's regulations. So we just wanted to make sure that it's clear that all of those that are authorized federally for someone that is getting issued a COLA are also authorized within Texas.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, it looks like that's all the comments that we have on that second agenda item. So I'm going to move on to the third agenda item. So this is a new proposed rule 41.65 related to contract distilling. And then we've also proposed a new subchapter G to chapter 41. And that subchapter is intended to cover operating agreements between permit and license holders. So currently, this proposed rule for contract distilling, it implements Senate Bill 60 from the last legislative session, and it provides a framework for permittees and licensees that are seeking to engage in contract distilling arrangements, as well as contract distillery alternating proprietorships, as authorized currently in sections 14.10 and 37.011 of the Alcoholic Beverage Code. The proposed rule defines the 2 types of operating agreements for the production of distilled spirits, as well as providing a definition for the term affiliate, as that term is used specifically in sections 14.10 subsection A6 and section 37.011 subsection A of the Alcoholic Beverage Code. Additionally, the rule clarifies who must be a party to these arrangements and sets requirements for submitting copies of the agreements that are required under those 2 statutes to the agency. It also clarifies the types of activities that authorize the sale of distilled spirits to consumers on the permit holder's premises. Usually that's referred to as a tap room. And then lastly, the proposed rule also provides an exception to the registration requirement so that products that are produced under these two types of arrangements may also be removed from the premises before they get a COLA. That way they can actually be submitted to TTB in order to receive that COLA. So that's the overview of the proposed Rule 41.65 for contract distilling. So I will open the floor up to any comments.
Hey, Matt, it's Amber Hausenflick with the Texas Distilled Spirits Association. I won't belabor any more points, but you know that we submitted a comment with some concerns with subsection F. So just putting that on the record.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you. We have received those, and I'll just remind anyone that has submitted any comments. Right now, none of those obviously have been incorporated into these drafts because what we're going over here is the exact version that was presented to the commissioners at last month's commission meeting. We do have, it looks like, one extra question that just came in. It says, what authorizes host to remove attendees from this meeting? Oh, let's see. Okay, it looks like this is more of a comment on the technical difficulty versus the rule. So we will definitely get back to you at the end of this meeting to cover, questions about the technical difficulties that we experienced at the beginning. All right, it does not look like we have any other comments on item 3 for the proposed Rule 41.65. At this time, I'll open the floor to any comments that anyone else would like to make on any of the agenda items covered so far today. All right, I'm not seeing anything. So that covers all the agenda items that we had for this morning's public hearing. I do want to remind everyone that you still may submit written comments to the agency. Those need to be submitted no later than 5 p.m. November 10th, 2024. And those written comments may be submitted to the agency either via email to rules@tabc.texas.gov or via regular mail addressed to the Office of the General Counsel, TABC at P.O. Box 13127, Austin, Texas 78711. All right. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. And that concludes today's public hearing.